Hello everyone. I'm going to thank you for attending our tap room, and let's wait a couple of minutes for guys that are still being late. And then we will get started with our tap room. Thanks. Okay, so I suppose we have most of our attendees with us at this moment. So let's start our tap room. So just to be sure that everything is all right, I'm going to double check that we have the tap room configured correctly. So it will be great if you guys could type in the chat that you can see the picture, and also can you hear me well? Yeah, I can see the confirmation. Okay, that's great. So yeah, thank you. So again, I'm happy to welcome you all guys on our tap room. My name is Alex Karolets. I'm the solutions engineer here in StarWind. And today, theme of the conversation I've planned will be using the functionality of the hardware, network cards to be exact, to increase the overall performance of the VMware environment. And I'm talking about the iSCSI extensions for RDMA. At the beginning, we need to understand the overall problems of some customer environments and what can be done in order to solve them. By the way, of course, don't forget to ask questions at the end of the session. I'll be more than happy to answer them all. So yeah, of course, every production environment grows in size, and more resources are needed to make it work stable and without any issues. Especially this question becomes hot if we're talking about some VDI environments where there are a lot of small clients doing generic workload operations, and the number of clients is growing. Finally, you can face the case when you need to add more desktops in the environment, but your system is already suffering in terms of compute resources. This problem comes even more acute with the hyper-converged solutions. Thus, it always will be better for the customer to solve this problem without buying new expensive hardware, I mean the servers in the most cases. So, generally, there's not much of a change needed in the overall system configuration. So, the iSCSI extension for the RDMA, iSER, is utilizing the common iSCSI protocol by using the RDMA transport service that can be used on some network adapters with hardware offload capability. So the ones that I will be using in this tap room are the Mellanox network cards. So using offload capability means that iSER can supply higher bandwidth intended for large transfers of block storage data. iSER not only replaces the current iSCSI protocol, it also increases the performance and the performance of the environment and provides the environment with so important iSCSI features such as high availability and security of the network connection. It transfers data directly from the application memory to the network adapter, thus avoiding some of the additional network layers. This also helps the environment to decrease its CPU utilization, which in its turn helps the administrator to free more resources in his environment, so he can basically increase the amount of virtual machines in the iSCSI environment, as we're talking about it on this tap room. Also, using of iSER protocol increases the overall performance of the environment. Actually, this tap room is quite informative, has quite informative purpose, and it will take me much time to run all the tests live, including all patterns, latency benchmarks, and CPU utilization results. So yesterday I made all the tests and created few informative graphics. So previously I've covered some performance benchmarks in my blog post, which can be found on our official StarWind blog. And in the nearest future, I will release the final part of the blog post where everything such as creating the environment and running benchmark will be covered. So it will. I will also include several scenarios, including the NVMe drives, SSD drives, and also the RAM disk. But today, let me just describe the environment I built in order to get these benchmark results. So I have two physical hosts. Each contains a pair of Intel Xeon 2630 V4 CPUs inside. Each CPU has 10 physical cores, 20 threads. So each host has 128 gigabytes of RAM on board. The network part of ours are cross-linked RDMA capable 100 gigabits per second Mellanox ConnectX 4 network cards with the iSER technology support. So the network cards are SRIV'd directly into the test virtual machine, which has 20 cores and 16 gigabytes of RAM on board. It is running on top of the iSCSI 6.5 node. So the 10 gigabyte RAM drive created on the initiator host and is connected via the iSER protocol directly in the test virtual machine. So it is recognized as the local storage. Upon the test, the number of jobs are 8. The I/O depth is 64. Okay, so let's start with the comparing the IOPS of both configurations. So the results of the benchmark are quite expectable. Data store that is connected to iSCSI node by iSER protocol gives more IOPS on all patterns than the data store that is connected via the iSCSI. As you can see, the numbers slightly differ on smaller 4K blocks, but have a lot more difference in amount of IOPS at bigger 64K blocks, especially on the random workloads. So iSER will allow you to boost both read and write IOPS of your environment. So sounds great, didn't it? Yeah, so let's continue with more results. Now the latency of the I/O operations. Again, bigger 64K blocks are winning the race. On 64K random read operations, the difference between iSER and iSCSI protocols is more than 2 times. Using RDMA allows you to noticeably decrease the latency of the network operations. Thus, your virtual machines will not suffer if you will have some heavy workloads in your environment. On small blocks, the difference between protocols is almost not noticeable. Okay, yeah. And Now the suite is part of the performance tests, so the CPU usage upon the network data transfers between the servers. As you can see from the graph on the slide, with the usage of an iSCSI extension for RDMA, the iSER protocol, you will achieve decrease of the CPU usage on small random blocks. Unlike the previous graphs that show us the benefit over the 64K blocks, the productions with random workloads, for example, the VDI environments, will benefit from implementing RDMA in the configuration. So yeah, in the result, you're getting more CPU power available to your applications, and less CPU resources are needed for your compute platform. This is especially crucial for hyperconverged infrastructures because the applications, storage, and data service need to share the CPU power. As for the StarWind part in the iSER support, so StarWind officially supports the iSER technology, and if your network cards are being able to enable the iSER protocol between each other, in this case, if you would have to build the StarWind virtual SAN on top of your environment, you can easily check the usage of iSER in the StarWind configuration, and thus you can achieve freeing more compute resources, the CPU resources in your environment. Okay, so yeah, as I said before, so my last part of the block will be in the nearest future, and I'll just cover all the configurations with the detailed screenshots. So yeah, something like that. So I guess here comes the part about your questions. I will be happy to answer as much questions as I can. So please, you can ask any question you may have. Okay, so Eric Hill asks, how does the iSER deal with the active and standby failover scenario? So this is pretty much the same as for the iSCSI protocol, and the configuration of iSER is not differs from the iSCSI configuration. So your virtual machines will be still failovering if something happens with one of the hosts. And yeah, something like that. Donald Ositsky asks, I just received a pair of HCAs from StarWind. Do I need to do anything, or is iSER already enabled and in use? In terms of our HCAs, so we are shipping our hyperconverged appliances with the Mellanox cards, which are supporting the iSER, and it is already being activated, so you do not need to do anything. And our engineers are already enabled this feature, so you have the better performance on your HCA. that is what's like comes by design in our HCAs. So we're just counting on this feature. Wyatt Harris asks, I currently do not have iSER enabled on my StarWind HCA. Can I enable it with the servers running? So yeah, you can. Basically, you need just to activate the iSER on the network adapter of one of the nodes, and your production will be running on the second node. So this is like the common maintenance like procedure. And after like enabling the iSER support on the first adapter on the synchronization, for example, you will need just to move your production on this node and do the same with the second node. But of course, our engineers will do all the job for you. So you need just to contact our support, and we will just activate the iSER on your HCA if it was not activated before. Volker Wickersheimer asks, are for iSER any other adapters supported than Mellanox? As far as I remember, yeah, there are some adapters. If I'm not mistaken, there are Qlogic adapters that been able to use the iSER protocol. But we've tested only the Mellanox adapters in StarWind. So yeah, it is also possible. Volker Kruger asks which NIC supports RDMA feature. So I was talking about Mellanox cards. So this is the Mellanox ConnectX 3 or ConnectX 4 adapters. But some of the like Broadcoms support RDMA, but as far as I remember, Broadcom adapters doesn't support the iSCSI protocol. They are just supporting the RDMA feature. So you need just to check with the vendor if the network cards are supporting the iSER protocol. White Harris asks, unfortunately, it says NA under iSER for my Mellanox connections. Does it mean it's not available? It can be unavailable maybe if you're using not the latest build of the StarWind virtual SAN. So you can just contact the support, and we will remotely check this information and enable the iSER in your environment. So it's not a problem at all. Volker Kruger asks, is it possible to use iSER within a virtual machine? Yeah, so you can just pass through the network card with the iSER support directly to the virtual machine and use it as well. So yeah. Okay, Martin Hobson asks, what is zero copy in iSER? So this method of transferring the data is like underlies in RDMA. The zero copy means that copying the data between the target and initiator without using CPU or OS buffer and CPU resources directly between the RAM or between the RAM of like 2 or more hosts. And Greg Dawson asks, do I have the advantage of using iSER instead of iSCSI for my enterprise level SAS SSD? So if we will take a look for the hardware offload, iSCSI and iSER, we will have almost the same CPU utilization as well as throughput for current generation of SSDs. Stace Hammer, yes, it's now the Q&A session. So this webinar will be available a few days later in our at our portal and also on our YouTube channel. So you can just see it. No worries at all. Okay, so any questions left? Okay, gentlemen, so if you have any questions left, you can ask them now, or you can, of course, ask them later in our social media. So, as far as I can see, I don't see basically any questions left. So, thank you again. Thanks for your time, and that was a pleasure for me to speak here about such nice technology. So yeah, okay, bye bye and fly safe.